was stumbling around the internet, trying to catch up on the news, to keep myself well-rounded with many-sided views. I saw subtle flaws in logic, so much bias and heartache. Then the unthinkable, I made the prime mistake. I read the comments, now I've lost an hour and I feel I need a shower. I read the comments, it was a stupid thing to do. Now I feel I've lost IQ.
We are launching a Kickstarter on September 29th for our third album, Are Kinda Strange. 14 songs about all kinds of geeky fun stuff. Everything from lutefisk zombies to,
spoons and Captain Boomerang and, that one needs a disclaimer. That's, for Sokka from Avatar The Last Airbender.
Not the DC comic book character. And yeah, lots of good stuff, lots of fun stuff. Stuff that is kind of been on our heart as far as trying to find the things that unite us and make things better, trying to focus on positive things and trying to find the things that can bring us together as fans, as music lovers, as geeks, as people. So that's really kind of what we're trying to do with this album. And yeah, we're excited. Some of the things that have changed, I think, with the songwriting process is we used to focus very much on lots of jokes and trying to hit different kind of nerdy references to specific fandoms. And the things that people have been kind of coming back to us and where our heart's been is trying to find the things that are more commonalities that you don't need to be a specific fan of Star Wars to be able to get. There's Star Wars references there, don't get me wrong. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to go, yeah! But at the same point, we try and find the things that lift and elevate more than just that. One of the songs on the album is called Good Good Day. And it literally is a litany of different kinds of good days and how we can focus on good days. Because when people take those good days away from us, that's when the bad guys win. That's when, life is bad. We need to be able to try and find the good days, even when the good days don't necessarily feel good at the time. But I mean, the song starts off with I paid off the debt I owed, which is a reference to Han Solo paying off debts. And then the very next line is I checked in the last piece of code, which is a very nerdy, computer programmer. There's no feeling like completing a project and shipping, So it's trying to find the different things, using references, but still trying to get back to this core of, at the end of the day, what we want to do is celebrate those good days and hold on to them and cherish them because there's a lot of not good going on.
Here's an example. I know time travel is real and the earth is truly flat, and you can catch rabies by just looking at a bat. I know it's all true, 'cause this website told me so. And if your facts don't agree, then I don't wanna know. I read the comments.
The thing that it's done is we'd started this process before even we moved. So we moved from the Midwest out to Portland. Yeah. And some of these songs started when we were still in the Midwest. But having been out here and, we had planned to do this Kickstarter before COVID hit. And we had stuff lined up. We were going to get ready. And then COVID hit and all our plans went out the window.
We've had to reformulate how we wanted to record the album and how we could work with other people to add extra instrumentation or vocals, and everything has been redone, reformulated.
But the experience of that, we just had to evacuate from our house due to the wildfires. has sort of shown us that this path that we're on, as far as trying to find these commonalities and trying to find one of the songs is called Phantoms Assemble, and it's literally about trying to find the things that can bring us together as fans of things. As you know, you can love both Star Wars and Star Trek. It's okay to love both. And the more we've kind of seen how the world is going and how things have gone here, the more we realize how much that message is needed, and it just, I guess, reinforces the trajectory we were taking with the album, and it actually informed the songs. So part of the problem with doing FALM is you write a lot of songs. We had 70-some songs on the spreadsheet to choose from.
Yeah, that was our initial short list that we had to cut down from.
And really, our experiences have kind of forced us to look at a specific view and go, you know what, this song is more essential now than it was before. Maybe it's not as funny as this other song over here, but it says something that people need to hear and we feel deeply, so this goes on the album rather than that. Probably our most ambitious album yet. We're shooting for 14 songs. There's both digital, and we're actually producing a whole CD. We're making a 4-pack of original stickers. One of the songs on the album is called Meeple Love. It's about a little board game meeple, if you know what those are. They're little wooden people-shaped
game pieces.
And so it's fairly popular amongst board gaming. This is kind of a love song about a meeple who gets lost below the shelf and is lonely and forgotten, and then the song progresses from there. It inspired a piece of art, and from that we actually made these little mini meeples with hearts on them that are...
And a friend of ours, Sally Childs Helton, had made, for a convention that her band was going to play at, meeple pins, where she actually had meeples that she attached a butterfly pin to the back of, and she's given those to us, so that's going to be part of a reward, as well as our back catalog, as well as t-shirts for that are themed to the song meetings, which is a sea shanty with a common refrain line of "Coffee, coffee, drink it down."
Think of it as a sea shanty for all the Zoom meetings that you have ever dreaded, and meetings by the score from 8 a.m. to well past 4. Yeah, it's inspired by real life. Anyway, we wanted the shirt to say "Coffee, coffee, drink it down" because coffee. And what else?
There's also art prints.
Oh, right.
We hired an artist to actually design the cover for the CD. She's also designing the t-shirt. And if you do a high-nef backer level, you can get custom art from her. We will actually... there's a limited supply of backer level that will be a custom song written by us.
We will write and record a custom song for you based on your prompt and your idea. The very top tier is a private concert.
Plus private song, plus custom song.
Yeah. And the USB back catalog is going to have a bunch of unreleased and rarities and demos and stuff. So not as well as
both,
as all 3 CDs we put out. So that one's going to be kind of cool.
Han Solo for president. Han Solo for president. You know he's the one, 'cause he's fastest on the gun. Han Solo for president.
You know, there was... We played that for an author that is a renowned Star Wars book author. And
Timothy Zahn.
Timothy Zahn of the fame of he wrote a lot of the original Star Wars Expanded Universe books. And, we played a song for him and gave him a sticker, and he's like, "But isn't he dead?" And I'm like, is that going to make a difference right now?
We love you all, and we hope that you will check out the Kickstarter.
Stay safe.
Yes.
Please.
And be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself.
I read the comments those circumstances, do you ever read the comments?
Hi guys, Katie Salidas here, and I am from Rising Sign Books, where we help get authors ready to publish their books and walk them through a lot of the steps involved in self-publishing. And today I'm going to be bringing you some tips about self-publishing. Today specifically will be in regards to the business side of it, aka the numbers, which are very important. But as I bring you future tips on publishing, we will go into more of the nitty-gritty aspects of publishing. But today we're going to focus on the big picture items, and that is the numbers. All right, so let's get started. Keep in mind that it is a gamble when you produce a book. That's the reason why a lot of people go towards traditional publishing. The traditional publishers will take care of all of the costs and pay you a royalty. But when you are an independent publisher, all of these costs fall on you. And there is no guarantee that you're going to get a return on investment. Now, I say that not to be a downer. I say it so that you have a clear understanding that the costs that you are going to incur in creating your book and producing it are all on you. So you've got to be aware of that, and we always need to start with a budget. Now, what do we put into this book production budget? For starters, we want to have editing allocated in the budget. Editing is going to be one of your biggest costs to producing a book because you want to have a good editor, somebody who knows the material, somebody who can help walk you through all of the fixes, revisions, and grammatical mishaps so that your book is as clean and beautiful as it can possibly be when it's produced. Beyond that, printing and distribution networks may have some fees involved in getting your book out there to the public. You want to keep some money aside in that. Book layout, that's the internals of your book. That's the way it looks and feels on the printed page or the ebook screen. Somebody's got to lay that out. If you can't do it yourself, you need to find somebody who can, and that's going to come with some cost. Book cover design, the outside of the book. We all judge books by their cover. That comes with some cost too. We're not graphic artists, we're authors. So we need to find somebody whose specialty is in graphic arts if we want to create that beautiful cover that people are going to want to buy. And of course, we can't forget about marketing. The most beautiful and well-published book will not sell if somebody doesn't know that it's out there. So we've got to find a way to get the word out. Now, we talked about editing. In the traditional marketplace, there are about 4 different editors that go through a book before that publisher produces that book and puts it out there. As an indie, you don't have the luxury or sometimes the budget of hiring 4 different editors in order to get your book produced. So we have to work with some workarounds in order to get some of these things taken care of. For a developmental editor, somebody who looks at the story and plot level of the editing, you can use beta readers. Beta readers are wonderful for helping you spot these problems and allow you to correct them in the revision phase. For line editing and copy editing, you can always combine that and find a freelancer who is willing to do that. Keep in mind that every freelancer is going to have their own rates and their own way of charging for their edits, whether it's a 1-pass, 2-pass, whatever. Talk to editors and find out what they charge and if that fits in your budget. But keep in mind, editing is one of the biggest budget items you're going to have. Now for proofreading, just like with beta readers, you can always give your final edited book to some trusted readers to look over and see if they can spot anything. That will generally help you cover some of those little things that don't get caught in editing, because let's face it, an editor's human and we do make mistakes sometimes. The editor can't always catch every single thing. So having that extra set of eyes as a proofreader or beta reader is great and can help you cut some of those costs. But editing is your #1 cost. Aside from that, we have book formatting. Book formatting is very specific, whether it's print or ebook, and both of these formats have very different rules and ways of being manipulated. You need to find somebody who's going to be able to create that internal format that looks and feels just like its traditionally published counterpart. If you can't do it, you're going to have to find somebody else, and that again costs money. So keep in mind on your budget, this is one of the things you will need to do if you're not willing to invest the time in learning to do it yourself. The book cover, again, we judge a book by its cover. So in order to find a cover that's going to be wonderful and convey what you want to the reader visually, if you can't do it, and it's okay, finding a graphic artist who specializes in book covers is going to be another cost added to your budget. Now, for a good book cover, you want something that immediately, just on first sight, is going to show the look and feel of that book. What genre are you trying to represent? It's going to showcase the author in clearly legible font, and it's going to showcase the title in clearly legible font. And somebody who is well-versed in graphic arts is going to be able to manipulate the design elements in order to make it look beautiful, clean, and work for you for a book cover. But that, again, costs money. So those are the three biggies in your budget. And you want to make sure that you've got that budget set aside ahead of time. You don't want to go into it with a blank check mentality thinking, oh, I'll just pay this as it comes up. No, start with a budget at the very beginning, because these costs add up very quickly. And you will be surprised at how they add up. Now, the last thing I talked about was the distribution network. Sometimes it does cost money to put your book out there to be sold. There are a lot of distribution networks out there, and a lot of printers, POD printers, which is print on demand, also work as a distributor for you. Some do have cost. Ingram, I know, charges about a $49 fee if you don't find a coupon for it in order to be in their distribution network. KDP, which is the Kindle Digital Publishing, or Draft to Digital, which is another popular choice, do not have these fees, but there are other fees that come with that, like purchasing an ISBN, your copyright cost, which that's going to be a separate, and there's a few others. So just keep that in mind, that there are some costs you need to allocate towards the production of your book. Now, some of the individual costs that you're not going to pay, but that are going to affect how your book's royalty payment is going to be based on how your book is set up. What is the page count of your book? Are you printing in black and white or color? Are you printing in a hardbound, or are you doing softbound? Whether or not you purchase an ISBN through them, or whether or not you purchase your own separately. These are all going to create the production cost of your book. And while you don't pay a production cost, that production cost is what's taken out of your royalty at the end. So keep in mind that the outlet that you choose to use may have different costs and rates for these items, and you want to select the one that's going to be most beneficial to you. Do your homework on that. The ISBN that we mentioned before, that is something that is required of all books, and that's going to be purchased separately through Boker at myidentifiers.com. They sell them in single ISBNs, a pack of 10 ISBNs, or I believe a pack of 100 ISBNs, and all of them come with varying costs. So if you're going to be producing a lot of books, I would suggest getting a 10-pack or more. If you're only ever going to produce a single copy, then you go for the one. However, ISBNs are required for some ebooks. So even if you're just producing one book, you may need 2 ISBNs. Keep that in mind when you purchase them. If you don't purchase an ISBN through Boker and you choose to go through a distribution network, be very aware that some ISBNs bought through distribution networks are tied to that distribution network. And because the ISBN identifies your book, who the publisher is, and what format it is, if you're tied to that distributor, that may not be your ISBN to take with you if you choose to move your book to a separate distributor later. Copyright, something that you'll also do separately. Keep in mind that's going to be between a $50 and $75 cost, and that is to protect your book's copyright claim, which lasts until about 70 years after the author's death. So keep that in mind as another cost. For ebook distribution, there are also different outlets that send your book out there to the wider marketplace. Print and ebook are two different beasts, and you'll need to decide whether or not you're going to go with a retailer directly, like say Kindle, or if you're going to go through an aggregator like Draft to Digital, who will send your book to all the distributors. Keep in mind that if you do decide to go directly with an independent retailer, you are with that retailer only. So if you're with Kindle, you are not with Nook. If you are Kindle, you are not with iBooks. If you choose to belong to the Kindle Select program, that gives Kindle exclusivity over your book. So you want to be very aware of where your book's going to be sold and where you can sell it depending on what options you opt into. With the Kindle Select program, Kindle does offer a few additional perks in order to allow you to stay with their network and potentially earn more royalties. Draft to Digital, Ingram Spark, and Smashwords are what we call aggregators, and these aggregators send your book to all of the distribution networks from a one-stop shop, which is great for record keeping. But if you're, like we talked about, Kindle Select, If you choose to be within that Kindle Select, Kindle Unlimited program, you cannot use these aggregators because your book cannot belong anywhere else. So keep that in mind. I personally like to choose Draft to Digital because it's user-friendly, it's quick and easy, and I like having one place to go for all my records. But going through an aggregator, they will take a small bit of your royalty on top. It helps to keep their site going. Now, let's check in with that budget, because this was the big one right here. The budget. Why were we talking about it ahead of time? Because those numbers add up very, very quickly. And this gives you a little bit of an idea on what those numbers are going to look like. So editing, we talked about being the biggest one of your budget. So if we look at the lowest cost option at a very reasonable rate per word, in fact, that's probably one of the lowest rates that I've seen out there. For an 80,000 word novel at about 300 printed pages, you're looking at about $400 just for editing. Now, we go up a little higher in cost to a rate that's a bit more common with freelance editors right now. That same 80,000 word book is going to become $800 to edit. That's just one line item on your budget. Interior layout, we've got low versus high, 100 versus 200. Cover art, same thing, low versus high. Your distribution fees, your ISBNs, your copyrights, all that good stuff there. And at the bottom, we've got a low end of $750 and a high end of $1,500, almost $1,600. You can see here why those numbers are important to factor in ahead of time, because that cost added up really quickly with the different options. And this is what you have to do as an independent publisher. You have to judge whether those costs are worth it, because in the end, your book has to earn that cost out before you can see 1 cent of profit. So keep that in mind. All right, so I know that was a lot of information I threw at you, and there's a lot more that actually goes with it, but we will get to that in another episode. But for now, if you are worried about your publishing options, if you're concerned about your budget, don't know where to go, don't know what steps you need to take, I can help you. Contact me at risingsignbooks.com and let me know what your publishing needs are, and I will do my best to be able to assist you. Thanks a lot, and I will be back with another tip next month. Bye, guys.
Everyone, Rebecca Jonesy here, COO of Three Furies Press, and I am here today to give you another editing tip. Now, a lot of people warn you not to use adjectives and adverbs, and there's some truth to that. You should totally use them, just don't overuse them. And the reason why you don't want to overuse them, especially with the adverbs, is you start to rely on them too much to explain what's happening and why. So I am a big fan of self-editing, for one, but for two, I'm also a big fan of when the flow is on you, just friggin' write, right? Write crappy, write dirty, whatever you gotta do, just get it written down. Afterwards, after you've had time to settle down and given your brain a little refresh break, which it definitely needs, you can go back through and look for those words. Really easy way to go through and look for your adverbs. Just do a find all for ly. That'll take you to all the grumpily, cheerily, snarkily, and every time you see one of those, ask yourself, how can I show this emotion instead of telling it? And if someone's doing something cheerfully, then, have their eyes light up. They'll come up a little bit straighter. They'll have a widening grin on their face. Their eyes will twinkle, all kinds of things. If they're doing it grumpily, show that they're slouching, they're pulling away, their lips are coming down, they're making faces. Things like that. It's also a really good way to really learn who your characters are, because as you're writing it out, you will see how they react, how they interact, how they express themselves. So that goes, a lot farther to tell us who they are than writing down that they were cheerful, you know? So never doubt the micro expressions conveying facts about the other person that just stating it wouldn't do. We rely on those in face-to-face conversations. They still work in books. So make sure you write all of those out. Don't take the easy way out. Like, I'll admit I tend to do. I get yelled at by my editor as well. Just the other day. So write it well. Write it fast. Then go through and write it well. Then check it one last time. Like I said, do the control find, look for the LYs. Super fast way of doing it. And until next time, everyone, read well and prosper.
Hey guys, CO Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you your monthly marketing tip. Today I want to talk about using all author. Specifically, I want to talk about using their universal author profile, which is just a incredibly awesome, useful tool. You can get an all author account for free. They also have some membership levels for 6 months or for a whole year. With that, you get some promotion of your books, and you can expand your author profile to include more than 4 books, which is what the free account will let you put up there. But basically, on this author profile, you can have your author picture, links to your socials, your website, your newsletter. You can have up to 4 books on the free. Like I said, they appear at the bottom of your author profile with buy links. So it's easy for people to see, what you've currently working on, where they can find it, where they can follow you on social media, and there's even a handy little contact box at the bottom. So it's pretty much like a free way for you to have a mini site that just promotes all of your books, and you can do interview questions. There's just a whole bunch of cool stuff you can do on this little profile for free. I just signed up a few days ago, but I've been hearing lots of great stuff about All Author. So I want to tell you about some of the other things that they offer. They have a review GIF maker. They have seasonal mock-up banners, promo GIF banners. They have book teaser makers. They have, they have promo plans for your books. They have a book feature where they'll feature your book for a certain amount of time on their website. Like I said, there's author interviews. They have a book directory. They even have a list of signed paperbacks and audiobooks, so you can list those there and make them easily accessible to your audience. They also have this thing called a tweet scheduler, and you connect your Twitter to it, and it will tweet out pre-scheduled messages, and it will actually repeat them 5 times. So there's no more having to, go back and schedule them multiple times if you're maybe like running a sale or something like that, and you want them to tweet every day. For 5 days, you can do that with the tweet scheduler, which is really awesome. Let's see. They also they have a cover of the month contest. And they have that every month. You go and you vote. You don't have to have like a paid membership or anything to vote. And whoever, gets the most votes gets the clean cover of the month. If you happen to be a New York Times or USA Today bestseller, they've got a list for all of those authors. They've got called an author pool that just kind of suggests authors to you. And for readers, they get deals, and it's just an easier way to access all of the books that all these wonderful authors have to offer. And if you're an author, you should definitely check out All Author. I am going to show what I've got on mine so far. If you upgrade, there are actually other profile customizations that you can do, and some of them look really neat. I'm probably going to upgrade pretty soon because all of the promotions and things that they will do for you are definitely worth the money. I think it's $59 for 6 months and then $99 for a year. But I'm also affiliated with Ally, which is the Alliance of Independent Authors. So I actually get a discount on all author. So that's great. That's just another reason to sign up. We'll throw my profile up there though, so you guys can just check it out and see what a basic profile looks like. And then there's like, I think 4 different designs that are a little bit more dynamic if you're a paid member. Anyway, I really think that all author, especially the author profile, is a great way to get your books out there for free and to put everything in one central place, which makes it a lot easier to, direct readers to. Okay, that's my marketing tip for this month. Check out All Author, and if you have any questions about it or about anything that I discuss on these marketing tips, you can go and email me at info@fiction-atlas.com, or you can message me on Facebook, or probably Facebook's the best place to message me. I don't think I've checked my Twitter in a while, but message me on Facebook, send me an email, and I'd be happy to help you with your marketing needs. All right, that's all for me. I hope you guys have a lovely October. I'll see you next month. Bye.
Greetings, fellow humans, and welcome to another indie music review with your furry indie music reviewer here on GoIndieNow, JD Estrada. I wanted to bring you something a little prog, a little heavy, a little different, and it's called The Ocean. Told you it was heavy. The Ocean. The album is Phanerozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic. Obviously a concept album, obviously prog rock, but obviously heavy. The Ocean is actually a collective of musicians, but we'll get into more of that later. Normally when you think of German bands, you go directly to Rammstein. But The Ocean is quite a different kind of beast. It's been very enjoyable to hit this album hard the last couple days. Think Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson, but with heavier moments. It's not to say that Porcupine Tree doesn't get heavy, but the heavy moments in the ocean, I think, are more gritty and heavier than Porcupine Tree, which is saying something. I think more than anything that has to do with vocal delivery, because Porcupine Tree can get pretty intense, but so can the ocean. This was very impressive to me. They are often not in a rush to deliver a quick song. They're not looking for a top 40 hit. That first track is 8 minutes and 32 seconds. The second track, I hate cutting in the middle of a song, but there's a lot to go over. So that one's Jurassic Cretaceous. It has that Tesseract feel to it in terms of staccato music. You'll see time shifts. You'll see, staccato singing and playing. You'll see synths and a variety of attacks in their music, and I use that word, attack, because often the sound is like one big army that's coming towards you, sonically. Damn, the ocean is a very appropriate name for the band. The sound is deep and tumultuous, and shows that there's a lot of hidden layers and stuff that we don't know, and that we should discover with every deeper listen. Again, those first two tracks, Triassic and Jurassic Cretaceous, are massive and pack quite the punch. And as a music lover and a lover of bands that take their sweet ass time to get to the story of their song, I was really pleased. Something that you should be aware of is that the ocean has had a revolving lineup since its inception 20 years ago. Sometimes the band is known as the Ocean Collective. Think of Queens of the Stone Age, Filter, and Nine Inch Nails. You might have some permanent members, but you have a revolving arsenal of musicians that come into play, sing, and do whatever. I can't wait to listen to the rest of this, of the discography of the Ocean, because this was a really juicy find for me. And I've been really, really, really pumped up with it the last 2 days, and I think you will too. The main contributor in the band is called Robin Stops. Stops? I don't know. Since it's in Germany, who knows? He's the guitarist and main composer. What I like about this band. Okay, wait. Let's go to another track. That one's heavier. This one's Paleocene, and it's broody. But let's finish with the last track to have something that will let me talk over without having to raise my voice too much. It's Holocene. All of these are Oligocene, Miocene, Pliocene, Pleistocene, Jurassic goodness. Okay, going back. I really like the band because it doesn't feel too prog, even though it's prog rock. When I say that, it's that the band doesn't have that sense of, or that inherent need to shred, and oh my god, look at me, I'm so good, I'm so good. The songs play out like visual audio pieces, and I really, really like that. I really like that, and I like that they have different textures and different approaches and different adventures to go on. If Jules Verne or H.G. Wells would have been into prog rock, they might have listened to this band, I think. The singing never feels like dream theater pretentious or overindulgent, and every band member is there to do one job rather than wait for their turn to shine. Sometimes prog rock bands are like, look at me, oh my god, I'm so good in my instrument. Nah, here everyone's going like, we're gonna do the thing. What's the thing? Depends on each track. Each track is a different thing. but no one's there to outshine, and I love that. I love that they push for that, and that I think the Ocean Collective is a good way to refer to the band because of that. I think it's pretty solid in that sense, and it's gonna bring out a lot of really cool things. You know, this goes back to the band's name. In terms of the sound, they're moving in unison, but nothing feels manufactured or overly intentional. Or it does often feel quite organic, which is an odd thing to say about a metal band with some rock songs that clock over 13 minutes, but it is what it is. As for the vocals, they range from Steven Wilson-esque to Daniel Johns from Silverchair, and others are like, you know, guttural growls like Avenged Sevenfold. Again, I've listened to this album in 2 days at least 9 times. Nothing feels overdone. Everything feels like it fits organically, and it flows organically like the ocean. Which is an interesting thing because there's so much going on, and definitely I recommend you listening to this on your stereo system and then on headphones and comparing and contrasting. There's a lot to dig into if you're a music lover, and there's a lot to be enjoyed of the Ocean Collective, so by all means check them out. This is Phanerozoic 2, Mesozoic and Cenozoic album. The name is a bit out there, but I don't care. The music is fantastic, and that's always what matters. So until next time, peace, love, and Maki rolls, and remember, it's always time to go indie now.
The Child of Chaos. The Chronicles of Chaos, Book 1, by Glenn Dahlgren. Nothing can break the stranglehold the gods of order have on the world, except a roll of the dice. An irresistible longing drags young Galen to an ancient vault where long ago the gods of order locked chaos away. Chaos promises power to the one destined to liberate it, but Galen's dreams warn of dark consequences. He isn't the only one racing to the vault, however. Horus, the bully who lives to torment Galen, is determined to unleash chaos, and he might know how to do it. Galen's imagination always got him into trouble, but now it may be the only thing that can prevent Horus from unraveling the world. Alright, so The Child of Chaos is the first book in a series. I don't know how many books there will be. So this is a sort of YA fantasy, I guess. It's on the darker side of YA, but it's also on the younger side because the characters are closer to 14, 15 than they are to the 17, 18, 19 that you see in a lot of modern pieces. This book follows Galen, who is, well, he's imaginative, and in a world ruled by order where everything is status quo and you have to do as expected of you, imagination can be a bit problematic, just a touch. So he has to deal with this longing, this pull towards chaos, and he's also like fighting against the gods of order, you know, good, evil, charity, law, war, etc. These are all gods of order, and he's kind of fighting against them to go and deal with chaos. However, he's also not just fighting against them, he is specifically fighting against a person from his past called Horus who became a priest of evil and is kind of causing problems because he wants to get chaos, and that would be bad. So there's a lot of history that goes into this story, and I think it's very fascinating the way that family history and history of the world kind of intertwine together to make this actually very unique world. I like it. I mean, the notion of having a pantheon and priests that follow that pantheon and are called to them, okay, that's fairly standard, but the way that this is done is very much interesting because it's not so much about changing the pantheon the way it is into something else. It's about acknowledging that there is a lack, that there's something missing, and that something is chaos, which everyone is terrified of, but maybe it's necessary, maybe it's destructive. I mean, we don't know. So there's that. The story also focuses a lot on the different relationships between characters, which I found very fascinating because you have to deal with, okay, you've got family issues. Galen's mother went missing. His sister is a priestess of charity, and so he's got that sort of separation there because, he's not a priest of any of the gods, and so there's kind of a disconnect there. What is his purpose in the world? Why can't he act as expected? And so I like the fact that the normal difficulties that people face, family issues, childhood bullies that you have to deal with, overcoming your own insecurities, finding your purpose in the world. I like the way that this was portrayed as something that is both perfectly normal and also integral to the story itself. So yeah, that was fun. As far as the characters go, I really like Galen. He's fun to read. You know, he's interesting and complex, and I like the depth and the background that he's been given. The other point of view characters that we see, mostly Horus, the other bully. Okay, I know we're supposed to dislike him, and I know that his story is integral to Galen's story and the whole purpose of this book, but I don't like reading his chapters. He's kind of, he's a terrible person. So he definitely has a purpose, and reading him is very important and integral to the story, but he's just like, dude, seriously? I want to slap him upside the head. Just, like, a lot. Which of course then brings me to the point that that's actually a really good character development, because you really do hate the guy, and you're supposed to, and the fact that you do means that he was well written. So yeah, as far as the plot goes, it was interesting. You know, it felt, there were familiar elements that you see. Again, the whole pantheon thing has been seen before, but it's different in this, and I like the way that it was portrayed differently. I also like the plot twist at the end with the Child of Chaos, because I didn't see that coming at all. I mean, I should have. No, well, I should have, but I didn't, and that is pretty fun. I like being surprised, and that twist made perfect sense, and it was really nice, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. Yeah, so the plot I think it's very unique. It doesn't follow your expectations, but it doesn't flout them either, if that makes sense. It is a logical progression of story. It has all of the elements that you need, but if you're expecting, okay, the story will go here, and then it will go here, and then it will go here, don't expect that. It's not going to happen. It's going to be different than what you expect, and I think that's very, very cool. Yeah, so this is Child of Chaos, a YA dark fantasy thing. I mean, it's definitely not your standard YA that you see in the modern times. It's more, think Percy Jackson meets Game of Thrones sort of a thing, if that makes any sense at all. yeah, very interesting book. I liked it quite a lot. It was fun to read. If you are interested in this book, I believe the links are in the description box below. You can find them there. And that's pretty much what I've got for you this time. I shall see you next time with a book of a different sort. I don't actually know which book it will be, but I have a list and I shall go from there. So I'm AG, and that's all I've got for you today. Bye.
I'm constantly reading books, like a lot of books, but my list never gets smaller.
Hello everyone, this is Gino Kubo here at GoIndieNow Film Reviews, and I'm bringing you today a movie called Tokyo Rose. It was uploaded 10 years ago to Vimeo. Vimeo is a site that provides an outlet for creatives such as me, filmmakers, artistic viewers, and everyone. I think it's open just to anyone who wants to put something up there in digital video format. Now, the movie is a short film, it's Tokyo Rose. A short film about the surreal and at times bizarre relationship between the heartbroken Seb and homeless wild child Rose. Writer, director, cinematographer, editor AJ Ovio. And it's one of those things where we have to see the digital footprint of AJ Ovio, who put this here 10 years ago. He's got other films on Vimeo, but his website is gone. And like many of us, it's really hard for us to maintain our creative aspect and build our audience in times such as these. So reaching out to them to give them our support is really, really important. And this movie is unique. I was obsessed with certain things, the dog, the smoking in it, and I was pleasantly satisfied with the ending because it tied up those loose ends that made me understand why certain things were possible. Now, it is one of those tragic things where we go somewhere and we expect to start a new life and then things fall through and we have to make things go as they go. And starting a new relationship is also important. So I recommend you go to Vimeo. I'll put the link down below as well to this film, and go ahead and enjoy it. It's really short. It's under 15 minutes long, and it's a great psychological piece on relationships and stuff like that. I really recommend it. You guys have a good one here. This is Gino Kubo. Please take care. And remember, it's always time to go indie now.
Abby, wait. Abby, stop. Look, why are you doing this? Don't move out.
I'm not doing anything. God, why did you do that, Seb? I don't understand. I really don't. We broke up. We broke up 2 weeks ago. I thought you understood this.
I'm trying to fix this.
I don't want to fix it.
I was calling about the job, the bartending job. My name is Rose. I can only work the graveyard shift if you have it. Yeah, I have experience. Seattle, actually. Seattle? Yeah, for about a year or so. And that's from 12 to 6? Okay. And the address? Yeah, I can be there 11? Is that good for you? My name is Rose, and you said 11. Yeah. That'd be great.
Hello everybody, it's your Nabeed here, and today we're going to be reviewing Sunless Sea with the ZUBMARINER DLC by Fail Better Games. Sunless Sea is a kind of steampunk Lovecraftian story whereby 3 decades ago, in the reign of Victoria, London was stolen by bats. Now it lies a mile below the surface. This is dreadfully inconvenient for everybody. However, so you are a captain, and as the beginning book says, captains often die. The good thing about it is, even if you die, your legacy is passed on to another character you roll. So, by and large, the game is exploring and, just kind of generically shooting monsters. So, I just kind of, wandered out the front gate here, and here's a gilliflower. Is that some kind of jellyfish? Jellyflower? Who knows? However, all of the monsters in Sunless Sea are like this. They're very Lovecraftian, very otherworldly. Some are easy, some are not easy. And then every now and again, you'll find, things that aren't monsters, like pirate ships. Typically, you got these little pirate ships, easy to sneak up on, so you just go and you turn your light off and you sneak up on him, and you get him in your sights, and you're like, oh crap, I cannot take that guy. So you run away. And then you find out he's got flares. And not only does he have flares, he shoots at you while you're running away. That's okay. Look at his little buddy there in the fog. But we can sneak up on his little buddy. So the cool thing about the game is you're exploring. It's pretty much completely crazy town. At the beginning, you kind of fight a lot, and die a lot, and starve a lot, and drown a lot. And you just explore more and more of the world. So here's a little guy, just go head to head with him, knock him down, steal his loot. Easy enough. But then, every now and again, you'll encounter enemies that are too hard for you, or you weren't sufficiently prepared. And in that case, what you can do is you can try to run away. To the victor goes the spoils. So let's run away from this guy. Actually, that didn't work. I died. So when you die, perhaps you'll be remembered in song. But you get this, reload screen that gives you a map. That gives you the ability to choose your legacy as your map. And at the beginning, this is a really good plan, because if you don't, this is what you get. And the interesting thing is the map is a 5x5 tile grid. The leftmost 5 tiles are the same always, the topmost 5 tiles are the same, and the bottommost 5 tiles are the same. But every time you die, if you don't choose to reload, or if you don't choose to keep your map, then all of the stuff in the middle is different. Because the world is shifting, and bizarre, and nightmarish, and a whole lot of fun. The game is incredibly deep. Unfortunately, my computer crashed and deleted all my save games. And so you're seeing a bunch of really early game content here. Just killing little things and walking right out the gates. I really enjoy it. The game is is incredibly deep. You know, everything you do in the game affects everything else. So, you know, if you decide to side with, you know, one group of misshapen crab people, then the other group of squid people on the island get messed up when you go back there again. So, it's all very strange. And it's very Victorian. It's very Lovecraftian. It's very dark. And it's just a slow, chill game. You can just play for 5 or 10 minutes and then go and do something else. Check out Sunless Sea, and if you like it a lot, get the ZUBMARINER DLC. That's by Fail Better Games, and like all other indie games, it's a great time. And just remember, it's always time to go indie now.
So I'm very honored, and I could not be more excited to bring about a review for a very special release beer, because Black is Beautiful on this Indie Brew review. Yes, we're going to be talking about this beer, which is called Black is Beautiful. It's an Imperial Stout, and I'll talk about it as a beer in just a moment. But I want to mention that this is a very special cause that was created in collaboration with many breweries. It started actually with the Weathered Souls Brewing Company in San Antonio, which is a Black-owned and operated brewery, craft brewery in San Antonio. And this version that, for me, I got from the Stone Brewing Company. So if you're in California or Virginia, you're going to want to buy it from this version from the Stone Company. Stone Brewery, of course, is very famous for their IPAs and double IPAs. They've got a ton of beers out there that are, you know, if you're an IPA fan, you've probably had a Stone Brew at some point. But they're making a donation to the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund to help national causes. Plus, they're also partnering with San Diego Loyal FC and their mission to be a force for good in their hometown community. And their support of the Association of African American Educators of San Diego. Hashtag Black is Beautiful Beer. So if you're talking about the show, use that hashtag. Let them know that you found out about it from here. So this was an organized effort between many, many breweries. We'll talk about the beer again here in a second, but it is 50 states, 21 countries, all have a brewery participating. There's about 1,100 breweries participating, and I'll have the link to where you can find the search engine as to where you might be able to find it wherever you are. You'll be able to do country, state, brewery, and see if they are participating in this cause. I want to read to you the mantra of the Black is Beautiful movement. It is, with current tensions that are rising, we thought that it was of grave importance to start the Black is Beautiful initiative. We took a stout recipe and decided to call it on our peers in the brewing industry to collaborate in unison for equality and inclusion amongst people of color. All proceeds from the purchase of these releases will be donated to local funds that support police brutality reform and legal defenses. So this variation is Imperial Stout. I'm a big stout guy. I love stout. I think any beer that you can drink at room temperature, to me, is a real beer. I just think that with that idea, it just holds up so much better. It shows its strength. It shows its beauty in that respect. This is a 10% by alcohol volume. It's a pint. It's a pint size that I got. You can also get it in a 22 ounce. It is brewed with Magnum and Bellum, and pecans and flaked rice are the major ingredients, the special ingredients. Its flavor profile reads as a rich dark chocolate character with a silky mouthfeel from the oats, and oak and bourbon barrel character that adds sweetness, caramel flavors, and the oak complexity. And that's really evident in this beer. It has a nice kick to it in that respect. You get that little punch of the oak in the bourbon. It has a small foam head, but very faint. It really is. It's a rich, thick beer, which you really appreciate about stout. And like I said, room temperature is the optimal way to drink this. It is. I would not put this in the fridge. It'll thin out if you drink it a little bit cooler. And even still, I did have, when I got this originally, it came from a cooler, and I could tell because of obviously the condensation from the can, off the can, and everything like that, and of course of touching it. But I drank one just to have that experience, and I can tell you it was a different experience than drinking the one after, which was more into the room temperature aspect. And I found the room temperature one to be a little bit more pungent, a little bit stronger. So if you're a coffee drinker, that's the way you want to drink these stouts. You want to drink them with a lot more room temperature feel to them. Not so much warmth, but just a nice subtle temperature, where you can still feel that there's a little bit of chill on it, but that it is also not completely frozen or feel like it's cold at all. And then, drinking it cold, it did thin out. But I will say, in respect to the thinning, because the Stone Brewery does IPAs, they're very, very good about hoppiness in their brewing process. And this has a little bit of that. It has a little bit of that IPA hoppiness, but with flavors that I enjoy. So the hoppiness is not overwhelming. It's not a terrible aftertaste. It's actually quite a nice aftertaste. And I'm not a big chocolate guy, so the chocolate element in here kind of throws me a little bit, which, most imperial stouts will have some kind of chocolate or peanut buttery kind of richness to them. It just adds that depth that a stout needs, so otherwise it becomes thinned out. And that's the part that gets thinned out, is the chocolate part. But I will say that it is very faint, and it is very blended. It's blended so well that you won't notice it. What you get is a robust amount of flavor, and you get different types of flavor all the time. And that's the cool thing about it. Like, from the top to the middle to the bottom of the beer, there's a different experience when you're drinking it. And that's not from its getting warmer or that it's been open. I think it's by design. I think that there's layers to this beer. So, and that's always cool. I mean, that's a really cool thing for a beer drinker. It's a cool thing for any drinker. I'm sure wine has the same kind of idea behind it. You want to get something experience new. It's exciting. It gives great opportunity to enjoyment for it. And I really not only because of the cause, and I'm really incredibly glad that I purchased this. It is a little bit on the more pricier side. My 4-pack was $12.99, but every penny was worth it, in my opinion. This is worth trying to find whatever version of Black is Beautiful. And I know there's other versions out there. It's not just stout. That being said, if you're in California, if you're in Virginia, go pick yourself up a 4-pack and help out this cause. And if you're not in those states or even in the United States, go check out where you can get a Black is Beautiful and hashtag it. Make sure you make them aware that you've done that, and keep the movement going. This release in August, so I'm not sure how much longer it has in its limitations, because it was a limited brew. But as long as it's out there, I'm going to keep buying it until it's gone. And then go back to my regular rotations of beers. But I really feel strongly not only about the cause, but that finding a stout that has this complexity. I'm really excited about that, and I really think it's a really well done beer. As somebody who's not a big fan of the Stone Brewing Company because they do mainly IPAs, This is well done, and I applaud them tremendously for it. All right, well, that's it. Cheers, everybody. Grab yourself a beer. Cheers to you. And remember that it's always time to go indie now, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Hi, I am author J.K. Allen, and I'm here to read you a little bit from my book, Half-Blood Alliance, that came out September 10th. Half-Blood Alliance is my new series, so it's set in the Angel-born world, but it features a new cast of characters with some old ones coming in now and then. Chapter 1. Tally took her time. She was in charge after all, no matter what the humans thought. When they summoned her, they thought they had all the power, but how wrong they were. The circle was for their protection, not the other way around, and that meant something, little did they know. When they called on a demon, it was up to the lesser demons to obey. Technically she was one, but she was an important one of Azazel's right-hand men, women. Young woman. She had only been 16 when she turned into a demon, too young. Fate had not been kind to Tally. She had once been angel-born, a descendant of the angel grace meant to protect the humans from demon kind. Then it had all gone wrong when Ginny was discovered, his daughter. That wench had ruined everything, first with Aiden, then somehow with Pat. Then Tally had been promised more power than even Ginny had, real angelic power from the scroll of Ainsof. And she had tasted it for only a moment, the best moment of her life. Until Aiden had released Heavenfire on them all. An angelic gift, Heavenfire was divine judgment. It had turned them all into demons for their so-called sins, as if what she had done was really that bad, signing a simple scroll, working for Jacob. So what if he was a half-demon? The angel-born deserved to be in power, and they were using him as a means. It wasn't wrong. Not really. Not worthy of this punishment, anyway. An eternity as a demon, and it was only for increasing the powers and gifts she had as an angel-born, to get more powerful than Ginny. How could that be wrong? It wasn't as if she was just a human to begin with. At least she wasn't like the other Lazarines. They were disfigured. Horns, talons, fangs, scales, you named it, marred their features. Her skin had turned ashen. Demons all had corpse-colored skin, but she still looked human for the most part, could pass, and that's what kept her important. She could do what other Lazarines couldn't. In the meantime, she had to deal with the summons. It started with the words. She didn't know who had taught them to the humans first. Jacob's father, Shemiazaz, had been the first demon turned from an angel for his sins. The words were what brought them to the mortal realm, all the way from perdition where they were imprisoned, all the way through the smoke that formed her corporeal body in the mortal realm. She slithered her way into the room, trying to be as dramatic as possible. The humans appreciated it, whether they realized it or not. It terrified and thrilled them. There were 4 of them in the room, wearing red robes with hoods drawn over their faces. A big, ominous-looking book lay on the table next to the leader. She laughed as she looked around at the humans, which made the man in front of the circle frown. She could only see his lips scowl, but that made her smile wider. He would be fun to play with. "Why do you laugh, demon? You don't look so scary," he said with a sneer. It was clear that he had dropped his voice at least an octave as he crossed his arms. "Why hide behind a circle for protection, then?" she asked, looking at her nails. They were stronger than ever, strong enough to pierce skin. He scoffed. "I'm not stupid. I won't erase the line for you." "You might, if you knew what was good for you." She glanced up, arching her brow. He uncrossed his arms. "What's that supposed to mean?" Callie scoffed. "I'm not an ordinary demon. I can offer you certain things." "You look pretty ordinary to me. Test me. You called me for a reason." He nodded. "We did. We require you to—" "I don't listen to you," she interrupted. Then we will keep you here as long as it takes for you to. She laughed. You think that's a threat? I have eternity. How long do you have? Enough time. We will do what we want. What do you even want? We want someone dead. Her hand rested on her jutted out hip. Easy. Try asking. That's nothing to me, but you don't control me. His lips drew up in one corner. Kill them, and then we talk. Sighing, she cocked her head and asked, Name? Jennifer Lee Smith. They broke the circle, and Tally left in a whirl of black smoke, skirting around them for the way Azazel had taught her to, using the ancient magic to transport herself to where the target mortal was. It was easy enough for her. She had been doing it for decades now. Jennifer was sleeping quietly in her bed, hand tucked under her cheek, mossy brown hair and a tangled frizz around her face. Glasses lay on the pillow next to her. Probably the only thing that has ever lain next to her, Tally thought with a sneer. There were many ways to kill a person, but she had to consider what the cops would think after and what those pathetic humans would. She decided to go for dramatic. When she left, the room was splattered in red. Unfortunately for the humans that summoned her, they were the only suspects, and their signed demonic book was conveniently dropped in the middle of the crime scene. No one told Tally what to do. So that is chapter 1 from Half-Blood Alliance. Next we get to meet Bree, who is one of the main characters, and the rest of the kids at the Alliance house. So I hope that you'll pick up a copy to see what happens next, and thank you so much for joining me. J.K. Allen saying goodbye.
Wake up. It is time, sigh. Whisper their new path to my pupils. They will listen. They will know who you are. You have to make them leave. You have to get them to safety. The water is rising fast and will flood all this. Only you can be their guide, Sai. Only you can help them plan. A long journey awaits them, and their trust in your instincts will lead them across wonderful landscapes. New lands to discover and to pay respects to, new horizons to admire and follow. You'll inspire them to create marvelous new homes. But the journey must not stop. They have to keep going. You will find them hardworking and determined. You will breathe new knowledge into them and surely appreciate their potential to learn as they care deeply for their connection to nature. Through you, they will bring to light ancient ways to get help from spirits. Vagaries may appear on the way, hardening your mission to save them all. And as some may be taken away, some will join the caravan and do part of the way with you. You are the breath that whispers to their ears, the wind that pushes them forward, and your journey, carrying them to me, has just begun.
Hello, my name is Mark Watson, and I will be releasing Between Conversations, Tales from the World of Ryujin, a short story collection of all different kinds of genre fiction. I will be reading a selection from one of the short stories, a futuristic military story called Low Level Buzz. It stung as the first beads of sweat dripped into her eyes, but she'd long ago tuned out the sensation. She was a professional, and she was patient. "Brow wipe, sir," said a voice from her right. She could have smacked him if she wasn't so focused. "Shut up." "Is that an order, sir?" Normally his banter would make her laugh, but at a moment like this she needed every ounce of her inhuman focus, and his cheap gag tactics that were usually so welcome now risked getting them both killed. She refocused her eyes and set the scope once again. The targets were highlighted in red while the surrounding area was green. Technology had made this job so damn easy. Her breathing was slowed to near death as she gingerly moved her finger to the digital trigger. Nothing more than a hole in a smooth sliding track. All it would take was a hair's width of movement to fire. Range? She asked. She already knew, but needed to show him that she was serious. Same as last time, sir. Range, she repeated. Seriously? A pause for a moment. She had to take it easy. She needed to show him without losing her cool and her target at the same time. Range. A soft sigh from her right. 3,620.559 meters. Elevation 12.780 meters. Sir. Thank you, Staff Sergeant. She didn't need to ask for wing conditions. It was as still as death. She laid face down, stomach pressed to the hardpan, with her back and eyes straight as a ramrod. Time passed as she kept the sight locked in place, elevated above the intended target to account for gravity over 3.5 kilometers of travel, albeit at a disgustingly high velocity. Her spotter slowly exhaled twice, a signal that he had something to say, but didn't want to distract her. Speak, Staff Sergeant. You seem hesitant. Is something wrong? She held her line. Nope. Just making sure. You're the best there is. What is there to make sure about? He'd clearly missed something. Tell me, have you ever had a god on the other end of your barrel, Staff Sergeant? No, sir. But you have. Repeatedly. True. But I haven't had 3. She could feel the electrical impulses his muscle gave off as he stiffened. 3? My scope only shows 1, sir. Then you better look again, because I've got 2 standing, and 1 sitting. Silence as he looked and confirmed what she was saying. That was a small selection from Low-Level Buzz from my Between Conversations, Tales from the World of Reusion, Amazon. Thank you.
All you early risers, day creatures, noon lizards, people of the sun, be careful out there. Sunburn cutoff is 7:22 p.m. and toxic level drop-off is 8:05.
The big heat-up happened. It created this desperate need for augmented day workers, and human cloning was born.
Do you ever go out there, look at the sun with your own eyes?
You just take your lithium X like everybody else.
What is it that you feel you have failed with?
You're on Premium 3. When you're dead, you'll be eligible for a total upgrade.
I wouldn't want to live without you, okay? Is that such a bad thought?
You can tailor your insurance spouse so that maybe they come back to you just perfect.
There's nothing to do, baby. It's already been done.
Calm down, or it's gonna be very messy.
Why does it seem like I'm the only one that feels this way?
We're all connected.
Are you afraid to die?
I don't feel any pain. Actually, I don't feel anything at all.
Imagine yourself feeling better, looking better.
Did you not think it was dangerous, playing God like that?
One person can set something in motion, and the rest of the world is never the same again.
Hey everyone, my name is Frank Martin. I'm the author of Shattered, which comes out September 24th from Three Furious Press. I would call Shattered a supernatural thriller. It's got elements of a lot of stuff though. Espionage, political drama, definitely some horror about a boy who's got prophetic visions, hallucinations of the future. and he gets swept into a global hysteria when people try to put him up as a messiah and a savior of the world when World War III starts after September 11th. I'm going to read this excerpt from the beginning of the book when our main character, John, the boy who has these hallucinations, experiences this trauma of September 11th, which we all know too well. I was in 5th grade at the time. 20 minutes after the day began, I needed to go to the bathroom. I didn't think anything of it, but as I walked out of the classroom, I heard a knocking. It wasn't loud, but similar to someone knocking on a door. I ignored it and continued down the hall. It wasn't until my 10th step that I realized the knocking was getting louder. With every inch I moved, the sound continued to grow. By the time I was halfway down the hall, the knocking had turned into slamming. The noise was so loud it felt like someone pounding on my head. I dropped to my knees, grinding my teeth to fight off the pain. Luckily, no one was in the hall to see me in agony, but I wasn't taking any chances. I got up and fought through the pulsing sledgehammer in my mind and ran to the bathroom. Once inside the door, I turned around and slammed it shut. I leaned up against the wall when the unbearable pain suddenly stopped. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, but instead of the disgusting bathroom stench I was used to, I smelled something else. I'd never experienced anything like it before in my life. I knew exactly what it was. Sulfur. I breathed in through my mouth, which then turned into a deep cough. I opened my eyes and they began to burn as if droplets of acid were being forced into them. Turning around, I leaned back onto the door and rubbed my face as hard as I could. After several seconds, I opened my mouth back up, and all I could see was smoke. The entire room was filled from floor to ceiling with nothing but a dark cloud. My eyes, already loaded with tears, squinted to keep from burning any more than they had to. I started to walk with a hand out in front of me, trying to find my way. The other hand stayed over my mouth to keep the black smoke from entering my lungs. After several steps, I abruptly fell to my knees. The ground had changed from the tile of the bathroom floor to the pavement of the city streets. I looked back and saw I had tripped over a chunk of concrete. The ground was littered with rubble and debris. I turned back around, and standing before me was a man dressed in a business suit covered in dirt and dust. His face was a bloody mess, and the sleeve of the suit dangled as if he were missing a right arm. I froze in shock, my palm still covering my mouth as it hung open. The man walked closer to me, his jaw trembled as he struggled to utter two simple words. Help me. My slight breaths turned into this rapid gasp of panic. I started to cough when a hand grabbed me from behind and pulled me to my feet. I turned and was face to face with a police officer covered in mud and sludge. The man's left eye was missing and blood poured out from what remained of his socket. He pulled me closer to his disfigured face and screamed, "What are you still doing here? You have to get out now! Run!" The cop threw me to the ground behind him and ran off into the smoke. I pulled my shirt up over my mouth and continued to walk through the dark cloud looking for a way out. After several seconds of roaming aimlessly, tears of desperation began seeping down my cheeks. A blast of flame and cinder erupted before me. I flew back and fell to the ground. The fire roared in front of my face and quickly grew to surround me in a blazing circle. I raised my arms to shield myself from the heat and the blinding light of the fire. A man and woman in business suits ran out from inside the blaze, covered in flames and screaming in anguish. The woman quickly fell to her knees with an unrelenting shrill of pain until her body dropped to the ground. Her corpse lay motionless except for the flames that continued to burn away her skin. The man just screamed while running around me in circles. I stood and tried to back away, but he turned and slowly walked towards me. As I retreated from the man on fire, I would never forget the two words he muttered out from underneath the roar of the blaze. 9, 11. His words shot through me as a bullet, paralyzing me like none of the voices had before. He grabbed my shirt and pulled me up so that my face was an inch away from his. The moment seemed like an eternity as I stared at all of the flesh around his eyes dripping off his burning face. Then, in the silence grew too strong to bear. He opened his mouth and unleashed a loud, demonic shrill. The next thing I remembered was waking up in a hospital bed with my mother and father by my side. They went on to explain that a boy found me curled up in a ball in the corner of the bathroom. By the time they got me to the hospital, I was convulsing with a fever of 101 degrees. They also told me that during my episode there had been a series of terrorist attacks in the World Trade Center and Pentagon. To them it was nothing more than an unfortunate coincidence that my illness flared up on the same day. Not once did they think it was related. When I awoke, I had already been in the hospital for a full 24 hours. It was September 12, 2001, the day World War III began. I hope you enjoyed this excerpt from the beginning of the novel, because things only get crazier from there. Shattered releases from 3 Furious Press on September 24th. Thanks.
guys, this is CL Cannon. I am the owner of Fiction Atlas Press, and I am the person who has put together this anthology of anti-heroes called The Devil You Know.
I'm Kay Wiggins, a Canadian author of speculative fiction in the Pacific Northwest, and today I'm reading from Boy with No Name.
This is K-Matt, or, well, Kayla, with a reading from my story, Here Comes Trouble.
Hello, I'm KRS McIntyre, and I'll be reading an excerpt from Orphans and Kingdoms.
Even an unwanted child has choice, and this is what I choose for myself. I'm disobedient, a disappointment. The only time Miriam deigns to look in my direction is when I defy her, so I do, repeatedly. It's a winning strategy, though, not without cost. Every time I'm sent away to be punished, I wonder if it will be the end for me, of the tenuous, unspoken us she cannot fully erase. But time and again, I'm brought back to stand in the shadows behind her, to dance silent attendance on her. I watch, I learn, I see the shame she hides, the sacrifices she makes, the flaws in her performance of beauty. The cracks in her perfection give me hope. But I'm still young and so alone. If she would only turn and look, if she would truly see, reach out to me. My waiting is not rewarded. She keeps her back turned, and so she does not see the moment I give up on her. I've never seen another child, but I know this one is something special from the moment I lay eyes on her. I feel it, just as I felt her and the others the moment they crossed the supposedly impenetrable boundary and entered the city. She's dragged in with a dead man and a dying woman who flickers with a living mist that limns her skin and lights her eyes. The child sees me hiding in the shadows. Her eyes aflame with silver lock on my dark ones, desperate, pleading. When the woman dies, the mother, the light goes with her, but though the child falls, her own light fading to nothing, she does not die. I knew then, just as I do now, that I would do anything to be seen by Cole one more time.
The elevator dinged as it reached his floor, and he moved with caution toward room 1004. Pressing his ear against the door, he could hear voices inside, female, laughing, and somehow familiar. Wait, was this someone he knew? He pulled his key from his back pocket, going to unlock the door. Carefully, he stepped into the apartment, pausing as he noticed 3 pairs of boots beside the door. A light red holster and a turquoise scabbard hung on the coat rack, minus its sword. The smell of alcohol, nail polish, and fish filled the air, and he could hear something on the TV. I'm telling you, there's something about the dad on this show that sets off some major red flags, one voice said. Ivy, you say that about any positive father figure. Well, yeah, that, but when's the last time you met someone that freaking sickeningly upstanding? Ivy replied. Well, now Nick wasn't sure if he should feel relaxed or even less at ease than he had. He knew these people, and if the Sangre sisters had shown up, that meant his own sister couldn't be too far off. She had a habit of hanging around those two. He'd met them all at the lab a few years back. As the officer thought of how to approach the situation, he was disrupted by a hug from the side. The purring clued him in as to who it was. Hey, Beast. Been a while, he said, fighting the smile that was playing at his lips. Missed you too, baby brother, came the reply. Nick looked to his right to see his older sister standing there, her dark hair pulled back into a ponytail. Her feline ears poked upward and her fluffy tail swayed, but what grabbed his attention even more was the red hunk of metal attached to her right shoulder. It was a bulky facsimile of an arm, with overly long fingers that extended to the floor. She noticed him looking and lifted the arm like it had been attached to her since birth. Modeling the limb a bit, she grinned. You like? Nick sighed, moving to the fridge to get a beer for himself. So, Beast. What the hell are you and your friends doing in my apartment? I sure as hell know I didn't invite you guys. The Catwoman chuckled, her ears giving a little twitch. Yeah, Nick, we know that. It's just that we were in town for a job and we haven't tracked down our target yet. And we figured you wouldn't mind. Plus, it's cheaper than a hotel.
The hour-long walk between Lady Esme's cottage and the village market was my favorite part of the workday. Between the warm rays of sunlight that teased my skin and the much-needed solitude, I wished the cobblestone path towards town was just a tiny bit longer. The gray, litter-filled streets of my birth city's prison district were a distant memory now. I never saw foliage or flowers back then, just dirt and death. I felt safe out here in the forest, beneath the trees that hunched over me like the guardians I'd never had. Whenever the wind whistled through the weathered branches and teased my hair, it felt as if the universe was comforting me. I held Lady Esme's shopping list in one hand and an empty wicker basket in the other. Crickets hid in the thick green foliage and lulled me with their rhythmic chants, while birds chirped proudly as they soared through the azure skies. But it only took the sudden, sharp snap of a twig to bring back the survival instincts I'd acquired in the prison district. My hand fell to the dagger at my waist as chills shot down my spine. I dropped the basket. The sound had been too close. Someone or something was right behind me.
If you could walk a mile in someone else's shoes is often thrown around as a moral ambiguity to live your life by. But as someone blessed with some, shall we say, unusual gifts, not to mention an infinite lifespan, I much prefer to infer meaning rather than experience it firsthand. As high as human highs are, their lows can be downright unbearable. They live and think and feel in extremes that I've long since sworn off. Their emotions have stolen more from me than they could ever repay. They are selfish, ruthless, and they thirst for power more than anything else. Of course, I know not all humans are inherently evil, and they can even be useful at times, but the majority place self-interest above all. I've also never met a human who couldn't be bought for one price or another. Their loyalty is paper thin, and I intend to make them pay for their crimes against my kind. Their reckoning is coming. My plans are in motion, and I do not intend to yield. There's just one more cog in the wheel to lay in place. When I first encountered Athlia, I felt nothing. She was clearly human, small of frame, with unruly rust-colored hair, and eyes that seemed permanently pointed at her feet. I'm not sure that I noticed her as anything more than shabby decor littering the floor of the club where I'd agreed to meet my contact. My mind was too transfixed on retrieving the information I needed to take into account the waitstaff. It wasn't until she looked me in the eye and asked for my drink order that I felt the spark of power and a niggling in the back of my brain that reminded me of someone I'd long tried to forget. Perhaps she was a distant relation, or even an illusion my mind had made up. The possibility and potential of her scared me. It had been centuries since I'd feared another being, or cared about one. Neither fear nor care had brought me happiness, and so this rare moment of recognition as I stared into her eyes sent me bursting from the scene, desperate to escape the past and unwilling to relive it. My skin itched and my breath quickened as I made my way through the heavy foot traffic of London. I preferred the black ink of night, easy to slip through and to disappear in, but on this night the streets were crowded with merrymakers eager to celebrate the coming of the new year. Bodies pressed against me from all directions, making it harder to navigate the crowd without skin-on-skin contact. Finally, I managed to plod down a less crowded alley and gather my composure. Who was this woman, and what connection does she have to my Ava? I'd have to face her to find out. I had no idea the role she was about to play, or the depth of her power. Okay, that's just a little bit of a preview of my story. It's called Fool Me Twice. And I really hope that you will check out the anthology, because there's 12 authors, including me, in there, and there's some really, really good anti-hero stories, and I'm really proud of this anthology. So thank you so much for listening to my story and listening to the excerpts that all the other authors have provided, and I really hope you enjoy it. All right, bye.
Thanks for seeing me again.
Yeah, no problem. How many concussions you had?
I think 24.
How are you even walking?
I started wrestling, I had a mission to become an iconic person in my industry.
Wrestling's your life, I know, I get it. But you gotta stop.
Where am I gonna go?
You get you out now, maybe your daughter has a dad to walk her down the aisle.
Yeah.
Ah, my little one, this is how it's done. You play your part, and I'll play mine.
He's never gonna stop being a wrestler, because that's who he is. But it's just a matter of time until he gets hurt badly, and that's something that I'm not ready for.
Ah, my little one, it'll be just fine. Your bruise will fade, and your bones didn't break.
I just don't know how to do anything else.
Ah, my little one,
This is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
it'll be just fine. Your bruise will fade.
This is home.
I think you should get braids back. They look so mint.
Pack your bags, Your Honor. You're going on tour. This'll be the trip of your dreams. You'll do readings in Porto, Berlin, Maastricht, Burgundy, Santorini, Budapest, Oradea, and Venice.
Madam, I'm afraid your booking was cancelled.
That's not possible. Is your manager here?
That's me.
Ivana, I've gone bankrupt.
What?
You can still do the tour. You just have to pay for everything yourself.
The tour sounds amazing! Tell our listeners about your typical day.
It's every writer's dream. Each morning I eat black caviar for breakfast, bathe in sparkling Perrier, and have my personal sculptor carve dolphins from a cube of Greenlandic ice.
What was your inspiration? I asked. Good question, she lied. Grazie. Danke. Evcaristo. Mulțumesc.
Ne vous arrêtez pas, s'il vous plaît.
Hi everyone, I'm Karina Gantus, author of Illusional Reality, which is a paranormal romance fantasy, clean fantasy. The story is basically about good versus evil, and the good people being the Ticinians. Now the Ticinians, they live in the trees. The trunk of the tree has the stairs that go up into the actual tree where a tree house has been built. Every house has a bridge connecting to another house. You can actually walk from one end of Ticinia to the other using these bridges. They're very, very close and friendly people, so they have no problem with people knocking on their doors at 12 o'clock at night or whatever. Becky, who is the main character, she's taken from her life and brought to this new magical realm where she finds out she has powers just like the Ticinians do. The Ticinians use their powers only for good. Some of them you have extensive hearing, being able to grow stuff from the ground, being able to talk to birds, making things move, and many, many other more powers which they call them gifts. So all the Ticinians live above the ground. Then on the ground you have the main two buildings, which is the Pleki and the Eskos. Now the Eskos is where the council meetings are held, and the Pleki is where the sacred stones are kept. Then you have the evil side, which are the Senks. Now they live on this massive dark mountain. All of the Senks people, they're not the evil ones. The evil ones is the Darthorn, who's the warlord of Senks, and his son Kovon. Now the little people, the villagers, they live in little domes on the floor, on the ground, and Darthorn's dome is huge and it's covered in gold, and as soon as you see that, it's like, you know that man is the warlord. He doesn't treat his people badly. What he wants is the power of Ticinia. He wants the sacred stones, but every time he tries to get them using dark magic from his, still called the Dark Eye, the Ticinian's magic is able to overthrow him, and he's never been able to get his hands on the stone. So that is Illusional Reality. That's the first book. On with the Quest, which is the book 2. Now with the Quest we leave Ticinia, we leave Senks. With the Quest we're going to the Outlands. We have the Forest of Illusion, we have the Death Valley, we have Lake Weir, which has these green goblin creatures with sharp claws that are called Griffiths. You have them finally get to the city of Helcom, which is where their quest ends. And the guards of the city are actually called Rants, and they're half man and half rat. And another creature that needs to be mentioned is the Bustak, which is basically a blob of jellied flesh. He actually is probably one of the most important characters of the whole book, and until you read it you won't know why. So these are two amazing adventures into one book called Illusional Reality, the Duology, and I hope you enjoy it.
Mom, it is not in the hamper.
Hey, Mom, I'm sorry. I have to go.
Mom.
Yes, Apple. Robbie!
Everything's okay, right?
Fear so bitter, death is hardly more severe. That's pretty intense.
See, Holly's a real gourmet chef, too. We knew who loved pie the most.
You're drooling.
I was the one. Those 2 kids in the paper. I ran them off.
My name is Dean Katie Salidas. I'm the writer and director and editor of the film SWERVE. And the SWERVE is my first feature film.
I'm Azura Sky, and I am the lead actor in the film The SWERVE.
I wanted to talk a little bit about just the idea of this film and how it came about. Dean, what was your motivation for writing something like this? It's a very deep thinking piece, and it's a very it's one of those neat films that has like a slow burn, and I'm kind of curious what your thought process was in creating something like this.
Being raised by women who were very strong and had been through a lot in their lives, and as I grew and matured, I began to see that they had endured mental and physical abuse, and were dealing with forms of mental illness. Although they hid it largely from the family as best they could. I mean, just so that it wouldn't come across to the kids and so forth. And then beyond that, I think I developed a really strong admiration for books like Gothic novels, and from Edgar Allan Poe to like Madame Bovary, who dealt with these great female characters, and Greek tragedies and Shakespeare. And I think it all sort of came out in when I started writing this. And it was all centered around Holly. I created this character of Holly, and everything else developed around this character. So that was my aim, to have a very strong point of view through this character.
When I read the script, I immediately recognized Holly as really the role of a lifetime. I mean, what an opportunity. I had never had a role that good before, that challenging. I don't know that I'll ever have one again. But I immediately recognized it as really an actor's dream. I think you can, go through a whole lifetime and a whole career without ever getting something that great and harrowing to sink your teeth into. So yeah, I just saw it as a tremendous opportunity, a scary one for sure. It was very daunting, but I find it rare in these kind of work situations that you get the opportunity to be scared and to be daunted. And when those come along, you better jump in, because I find that they're the most worthwhile experiences.
How much of being on the screen in every single scene and every single shot played a factor in determining you taking this role or not?
Part of the scariness was just that physically it demanded a lot. She is in every scene of the movie, almost every shot. It had been a long time since I just worked at that level, being on set all day, every day. Usually I do supporting roles, so I'll come in and do a day here, a day there, week here, week off. But Holly was every day, from the time I went to bed, from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. It was like treading water in an icy pond. It was a lot, yeah, but such a gift.
But there is an arc to this character that is vast, and I'm thinking in terms of having in your process, how do you how did you kind of look at that linearly, or did you because you don't shoot it linearly, obviously. So how did you figure out in your process when to up it and when to lower it? Was it just going back to your instincts a little bit?
Well, actually, we did shoot this movie almost entirely in sequence.
Wow.
Yeah, which was so rare, and also such a gift. So the progression of the character truly did build day by day.
Was she a tough character to get out of your mind after the fact?
No, she wasn't. I was afraid that she would be. The way I work, it's not by choice, but I've always left my characters at work. Even between setups and between takes, when the director says cut, I always come back to being Azura. And when I leave at the end of the day, I really leave the character behind. Like I said, that's not a choice. That's just how it happens for me. And I feel fortunate in that. But Holly was such an intense and grueling person to be. And I had never quite put myself through something that emotional for work. So I was a little worried that she might stick around, but thankfully she did not.
Yeah, Azura was correct in saying that the film was almost shot chronologically, and we did that. The producer, I credit Tommy Minix with that, because he actually rewrote the. And this is, I can say this now, but he rewrote the AD's scheduling to accommodate that. We thought it was really important to be able to do that, also for makeup and costuming to convey the mood and the characterization as best that we could. It was for such a small budget. It was, we didn't have a big crew. And for so much that we had to do, it was a very complicated film, and it was really important that, for Azura and for me to be able to be able to follow the character and story on a day-to-day basis.
How many days over time did it shoot?
Since we didn't have I directed all the B-roll as well. I think ultimately came to 23 days.
Wow. Something about these types of films that really matters a lot is the supporting cast. I mean, without, terms like Zach Rand, for example,
yeah.
and guys like Bryce and those folks, without them playing off of the Holly character, it doesn't sell, right? And then that's the hard aspect of getting something psychological like this over. And that,
yeah.
And so talk a little bit about what they gave for both Azura and Dean, what they gave you and what they meant to you in terms of that respect.
I thought our supporting cast in this movie was just so stellar. There really wasn't a weak link in the whole bunch. It was really a privilege and a pleasure to work with each and every one of them. And, when you work with great actors, you don't have to even act. You just kind of, just react to them doing their thing. And, yeah, Ashley Bell, Zach Rand, Bryce Pinkham, they just, it was such pivotal roles too. I mean, they are supporting roles, but such well-rounded, well-crafted characters.
Yeah, casting was it was difficult in a way. I mean, the casting director is fantastic. Adrienne Stern, she was great, just really great to work with. Very personable and not, she had her say when she thought maybe we were what we were looking for, and I was specific too. I mean, I was very specific, and we talked to a lot of people, and I kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a, I don't know, kind of a, it's in, you feel it in the gut, like I did when somebody was right, somebody was not right, and as soon as I met Zach, I said I have to meet him personally. He was in New York area, and met up with him, and I knew within the first like few minutes whether he'd be right for it. And you know, we sat and talked for a couple of hours, I think, and just went over things. And I was like, "You can do this, no problem." And same with Bryce. I just, you know, I didn't know Bryce as a performer, but I saw everything that I could. And Ashley, I knew, not personally, but I knew her work, and I met her, and she was just great. And it was very, very important to be able to have a contrast of actors that played with and against Holly. And everything in the film is based on mirroring of characters and as well. And so it was really, really important to do that. Once we had Ajura, then I knew how to play against her and with her. And, you know, and I would get messages like, "Who are you casting as Rob? Who are you casting?" And it was very funny. Yeah. And you know, and I understood. And she's like, "Oh, you can't. Have you thought of so and so?" And I'm like, "I'll be quiet." And and it's like, you know, it was like I'm busy. But it was an enormous amount of work. It was one of the most important things to try and get right. And all the actors, the main cast, they've been acting since they were kids. So I didn't think they were going to have any problem. And the way that I direct is specific, and I tried to be sort of playful, but I just had an intuitive feeling that they all knew what they were doing, and we discussed it beforehand, and I think they knew eventually that they weren't in any danger. I wasn't going to, you know, mess them up psychologically. I don't play games like that. Yeah. And movie sets are, you know, they're very focused, and the movie was so complicated to begin with that I was just very focused on, you know, making sure everybody was comfortable and on target with what we needed to do. And they loved, as actors, they're magical creatures. I've said this to Ajura, and they love to sink their teeth into things, and they were a lot of fun.
Did you guys do any rehearsals or anything? Was there any time that you guys spent together beforehand?
Not that much. A little bit. Like I sat with Ajura in her hotel room, and we went over scenes and talked, and she had questions. And at first, I think it took a few days to sort of figure out that, you know, that she trusted me, and you know, and I was like, we trusted each other, and we were able to do things, and she got into a rhythm of what I was going for, and that's completely, you know, understandable. See, like, what is this guy doing? Why is he doing things this way? What's going on? Zach, none. Zach had no rehearsal time. In fact, Zach showed up, and I immediately threw him into a scene. And I said, we can walk through it as you know, to block it, and you're going to go through it like this. Ajura doesn't like to do, you know, didn't need to do a lot of rehearsal, because it would, you know, not spoil the mood, and we just threw him in. And then he came up to me afterwards. I think it was the scene where you run up, he runs up to you in the parking lot, Ajura, right?
Yeah, that's the scene I was thinking of.
Yeah, and I had him running back and forth, and it was hot. It was in the summer.
Oh, it was so hot.
Yeah, it was intense. And then he did it, and I made him do, I don't know how many takes, not that many, but he did it, and he was, by the end of it, he was just sweating. And then he came up to me, and I was like, "Hey, good job." And then he said, "Do you think next time that, you know, you know, you could give me, you don't throw me into such an intense moment?" I was like, no, it was totally intentional, and you did a great job. If I had you think too much about it, you would have been acting. And I was like, you really did, you know, it was perfect. He didn't have a chance to overthink it. I just said, "Oh, you're doing this now." And he was like, "What?" And boom, you know.
Sometimes I really like working that way. I'm actually someone who, I'm not a huge fan of rehearsal, unless you're doing a play or something, of course.
Right.
But obviously discussions are necessary. But I find if you rehearse something too much, it kind of starts looking rehearsed. And it kind of starts sounding like you've said it a few times. So, and not always, but there really can be something to like those first few takes and that freshness, you know? So I'm always like, well, let's rehearse, but let's just rehearse on camera, because you never know what we might get.
Plus for you, most of this is all here in the face. It's all internal, so there's a lot of that, and that's hard to rehearse, I would imagine.
Yeah, and to be honest, I really don't. Even when I do rehearse, I tend to kind of walk through it, do it at about 10-15%, because you want to save it.
One of the more fascinating aspects of this film, and really does it justice in terms of getting that those moments with Holly's reactions and her turn and everything like that, is the way it's shot. I mean, this is very interesting. I really love it's not wide. It's kind of a more of a medium aspect ratio that a lot of these things come into, and there's not a ton of, there's some close-ups, but there's not a ton. And it's very interesting because you get this there's this aura around her from that, and you worked with Daryl Pittman on the cinematography, and I'm kind of curious how much you guys talked about that, and was that kind of the design, or was that kind of a happy accident that they came out like that?
No, it was designed. We the first thing I wanted to nail was the atmosphere of the what I was trying to convey. I was like, this is Holly's show. This is around Holly, and this is what I told Azura. I was like, this is around the character of Holly. And then it was about how to bring in certain colors and where would the colors originate from. In art direction, it was blue and green. And then in lighting, and especially there was some blue and green in the lighting, and then later in the film, how to bring in yellow. So we talked about things like that, and also I wanted to shoot in the scope, widescreen aspect ratio, and why. And you'll see in some of the shots how it alienates Holly and brings her. I'll put her in one side of the frame, and then I'll have like an emptiness on the other side, or I'll pit characters that way. Or objects. Sometimes I'll have her dead center. It was those are the conversations that we had, and it was very, very. He made a joke about it. I don't know if Najura knows this, but there was a light that he made that he put on top because I was insistent that the eyes on the actors be lit a certain way, and that you could see the points of light, the catch lights in their eyes. And so that was really important, even in the night, in the dark side.
He did a lovely job, Daryl. He did a beautiful job.
Now, Azura, I'm curious too. How much for you, as in your process as an actor, does that free you up to have? It's not enclosing you in a space. You kind of, you were boxed in, but you had a little bit of range, and I'm curious if that helped your process at all.
Yes, it is nice being able to move around a little. I got along with Daryl really well, and pretty instantly, I felt like I was in good hands with him. You can turn in the most brilliant performance of all time, and if it looks like shit, it doesn't really matter. I don't think we ever I don't think a mark was ever put down on this movie. I could be wrong.
A few times. Not.
Okay.
You didn't need them. In fact, you would sort of shoo away the AD who was putting like marks down. You're like, I don't need those. But we put them down if there were like when we had. It was kind of like a dance when you and Ashley toward the end, and when we had the three of you together. For focus, I wanted it specific, and I think you guys, any of you, rarely needed them. If any at all. Zach never did.
We didn't use them much.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of nice to use the space and feeling less restricted.
You just don't have time to improvise, and there's there's like some natural light in daytime, but everything was lit. Sometimes the shots were set at night and we shot it in the day, and sometimes vice versa. So that's filmmaking, right?
Right. Along those lines, what is it about independent film that you guys really cherish? What is it that you love about doing it in this kind of in this nice little guerrilla style?
Well, you know what? Even
We
at
got-
like the very high, I think even at the highest budget, there really isn't anything glamorous about movie making. But I find
No,
with these
not glamorous.
little indies, it does kind of, you know, they're kind of, especially when you go away on location, I find, and everyone's taken away from their homes, you can get this really special kind of summer camp vibe. And I feel like you connect with people. I suppose something that makes independent filmmaking so special is just that singular vision. You know, when you get into bigger movies, oftentimes there are so many cooks in the kitchen and there's so many opinions. But with these smaller movies, not all the time, but more times than not, I find it is single vision, or maybe, you know, a pairing of visions. But it's scaled down and it's much more contained, and it oftentimes feels much more personal.
She's not kidding. It's kind of, you know, a mix of misery and love. I mean, it's amazing in many ways that how do I put this in a nutshell? I mean, for filmmakers, it's like, you know, you go out there and it's like, how do you do this? And I spent a long time developing this. So we're going to go out and do this. And it's like we could write a book on how we did this, and maybe it would help other people. There are other books like this they could read that are wonderful, that were helpful to me. But until you're actually there, nobody really understands it until you've actually done something like this. And like, I've done shorts and films and music videos and et cetera, and they do not compare to the level of focus and intensity that you have to go through. Physically, yes, but mostly it's mentally that really is very, very taxing. And it's great. I love it. I wouldn't have given it up for anything, but people don't really understand that, and it is not glamorous. It is not a glamorous thing. You know,
it's grueling.
It's grueling. It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. My mind, you know, tension. There's tension. I mean, you're fighting against the clock. Mostly it's there's a lot of technical errors. There are planes and people and just things that interfere and bugs and you know. Try shooting outside at night, in the middle of the night, in the woods, with in the middle of nowhere with the crew, and you know you've only got a few hours till dawn, and there are, you know, animals and giant insects coming at you, and
Lions and
it's a lot.
tigers and bears.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot. It can be a lot, and I was having a great time. But it's also, you know, you also feel like you're being stretched on a medieval rack too, you know.